Thanks for joining our podcast, or our webcast, excuse me, actually, and you've listened to our podcast and our radio show. This is Fred Arbanas, joining Matt Fulks and me, Dave O'Hara. Fred is a Chiefs Hall of Famer. And Fred, I asked you this question on our radio program portion of this video and audio. The Chiefs of the 60s and 70s that you were a part of, the Texans and then the Chiefs with Hank Stram, what made you guys so good playing in Super Bowls and winning a Super Bowl? Why were you guys so good? And obviously, you had talented players, but what were a couple things you'd point to that made you guys so great?
Well, we all got along so good together, and as you've heard from some of the other ball players that played before, there was no color line. If you wore that same uniform, we were all together. We're all brothers. We're, like a combat infantry group. I mean, we were out there to win a battle, and we just became so close to each other. We used to eat together on the road. We'd, go out and have a drink together. And when we were home, we did so many things together also. And it wasn't just a bunch of, one, color guy hanging out with other guys. I mean, we all bummed around together and became very, very close.
Well, and as I mentioned on the radio broadcast, but also some of the former Chiefs that we've had on our program, guys were quite a competitive lot of guys, and you like to really hit people, from what a lot of those guys told us.
Well, we really enjoyed hitting. I know several of my teammates. I can think of right away were love to hit. I love to be to do hitting also. Maybe I should have been more of a finesse player, and my body would feel better today.
Now, we talked about this on the show, and since Dave's a big Bears fan, I'm just going to ask you this because I know this is a highlight from you. But as you think about all the great moments you had, 62-70 with the Texans and Chiefs, what's maybe one game that really stands out, that really sets you guys apart, really got you guys going, so to speak?
Well, you mentioned Bears. I don't know if you're talking about the Baylor Bears or William Chrisman Bears, or what Bears are we talking about?
Okay, let's go on and say the Chicago Bears.
Oh, Chicago Bears, yeah. They were a team that when I was a kid, being raised in Detroit, they were one of my favorite, football
The
teams
Monsters of the
back then.
Midway, right?
And I remember guys like Bill George, let's see, Atkinson, Ed Sprinkle. There was a lot of great football players they had on their team when I was, like a high school kid. And so the Bears to me and the Lions, they were the cream of the crop in professional football back then. And when I had a chance to play against the Bears in 1967, I believe it was in August. We had just been defeated by the Packers in Super Bowl one, and we took a lot of criticism nationwide about being just a bunch of punks and not a good football league, not a good football team, and when we were getting ready to play the Bears, every interleague game was like a Super Bowl because the NFL teams didn't want to lose to us, and we wanted to beat them so bad. And if we would have lost, it wasn't any big deal. Everybody expected you to lose, but for them to lose was very, very embarrassing. Well, we went out and we beat the Bears, who had a lot of great football players at that time, and we won 66-24. It's the only score that I can remember for any game that I ever played in, high school, college, or professional.
So you knew which Bears I was talking about then. You had a sneaking suspicion.
I had a sneaking suspicion because I heard someone from around here was from Chicago.
I am pleased as punch I got to hear that story twice, not on the air, but on the webcast. But we also wanted to ask you, as we wrap up our video, our webcast here, what are your thoughts on the current Chief regime? Players, the personnel players, management. Tough year this year, 4-12, to put it mildly, a tough year. Your thoughts on the Chiefs and possibly the direction they're going?
Well, I saw what their offensive line was made up of this summer, and at that time, I told a few of my friends when we were just sitting around shooting the breeze that I thought they're going to be in for a big, big disappointment, the fans of Kansas City. It reminded me of when I retired, and then Jim Tyre retired, and Dave Hill, Ed Buddy, Bo Mormon, E.J. Hollop, right about the same time. Of course, they lost Willie and they lost Will. And, it's sort of like the same, period that the Chiefs went in after all of us started retiring. And, they just they weren't prepared with enough young guys to fill in. Because I remember when my last couple of years, they were drafting some linemen and drafting them high, but they couldn't come in and they couldn't beat out me. They couldn't beat out Hill or Buddy or Ty or Holliver or anybody else. And so you didn't have any young guys that were really coming along by the time your real great football players were retiring. So I could see that happening, and it's too bad that it happened, but it did, and hopefully they can build things back up and get back together. Clark Hunt, I've got real close with Clark the last couple of years, negotiating for Jackson County with the Chiefs and the Royals. Um, and I would meet with Lamar, and I'd meet with Clark, and I saw Clark, develop from a young gentleman who is very, very smart into a very good businessman. It seemed like the worse his father's condition got, the more responsibilities he took on. And he called me a few times at the home at night, and we'd talk about different issues and everything that he and I agreed on. He never tried to go backwards on it. Never, never. He was a man of his word. And Clark's a good man. His brother Dan is also a super guy too. Two guys that I think are going to really, watch over things, and they're going to make sure that they got the people working for them that are going to be able to produce. It's going to take them, maybe a little bit of time to get figured out their game plan that they want to follow. But I think they're going to be in decent hands because they're good people. They're competitive. Clark was an All-American soccer player in college, so that he's one heck of a competitor too. And those guys are going to work hard. And hopefully, things start in that offensive line. As far as I'm concerned, you can have an average back, and they can run behind a great offensive line, and they can look like they're all pro all the time. And you can get an all pro in the backfield, and all of a sudden he doesn't have an offensive line, and he just gets beat up, and he looks like a bum.
Well, one guy who never looked like a bum, Fred Arbanas, Chiefs fan favorite, Chiefs Hall of Famer. We had a great crowd here at Chapels tonight to meet Fred, and this isn't meant as a shameless plug, but the Metro Sportsbook More Than the Score. Fred was the #2 fan favorite, right behind Derek Thomas in the fan voting for the top Chiefs of all time. So, Fred, we appreciate you joining us
Think
tonight.
of all those names: Len Dawson, Buck Buchanan, Bobby Bell. Finished ahead of all of them. You fans put him in there.
So, Fred, we appreciate it, and hopefully we'll be able to get you on the show again.
Thank you, gentlemen. Real good.